Today we are going to talk about fraction busting. So fraction busting can always be used if you have an equation or an inequality that has even just one fraction in it. So for an example, we're going to start off really simple. 1/2 plus y equals, let's do 8/7. Now, most of you have probably been taught to rewrite these with a common denominator. I want you to know that is totally fine. You are still welcome to do that. Now, if that method is kind of difficult for you, or if you just simply don't like it, I really recommend fraction busting. The whole point of it is to get rid of all of the fractions in your equation to make it friendlier, a cleaner equation that's a little bit easier to work. So in order to fraction bust, step 1, and I'm going to write out the steps over here. Step 1 is to find your least common denominator. Okay, so looking at all of the fractions in this equation, my denominators are 2 and 7. This one, it's pretty easy. We can look at it and see 2 and 7. My common denominator is going to be 14. So for this one, I might write over to the side. Least common denominator is 14. What you're going to do with that then is multiply every term with that least common denominator. So every single term you have in your equation will be multiplied with 14. And it's going to make it look worse. I always tell my students, it's going to look worse before it gets better. You're going to think you messed up. I promise you didn't. So looking at my equation, remember terms are separated by addition and subtraction. So I have 3 terms in this equation. So I'm going to put all of them in parentheses. They each get their own set. And then everything is multiplied by 14. Now, when I multiply a fraction times a whole number, remember that's the same as 14/1. You multiply your numerators and then multiply your denominators. So right here, 14 times 1 is 14. 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so my goal really right now is to just get fractions with larger numbers. This part, 14 times y, 14y. That one is no big deal. This one's going to look bad. Promise it won't be. 14 times 8 gives me 112. And that's still over 7 since my denominator of that 14 was 1. So like I said, it looks like you just messed up, like you made it worse. If you have done it correctly, step number 3 makes it all look so much better. Number 3, divide your fractions. So if you notice, this 14/2, we probably already recognize that that will reduce. So 14/2 gives us 7. A whole lot nicer. Then we've got plus 14y. I'm just bringing it down. And then 112/7. If we type this in our calculator, it should give us a whole number. So 112 divided by 7 gives me 16. So once I've gotten to this point, I'm not done completely, but all of my fractions are gone. And that's the whole point of fraction busting. Once you get to this point, you're going to use DCAD and use all of your inverse operations to solve for y, which we can go ahead and do now. This part should be very familiar. So I'm going to move my constant. Since it's positive, I'm going to subtract from both sides. So this cancels. And I get 14y equals 16 minus 7. That's going to give me 9. And then last step is going to be to divide both sides by 14. So we get y equals 9/14.